Yes, boys, what is the story? Welcome back to Game Week 14 preview. It is just around the corner. It's Sunday night. Liverpool City has just finished, and we've around 24 hours to go until the waiver deadline. Tuesday deadline official, Monday waiver deadline. We'll get through as much as possible, mainly listener questions, just because of the quick turnaround. So let's get into it. Let's have a quick look back at last week's watch list. He-Chan was first up. He played 8 minutes, so again, I'm waiting until He-Chan gets a start before I even look at him. O'Reilly did start, but got a yellow and got whipped. Played, 72 minutes. 0.45 expected goal involvements. Not the worst, mainly from 0.41 expected assists. Took a couple of corners. Still on the watch list. I don't think I'd be going for him over some of the players we're talking about today, but still one to keep an eye out for. Wilson came on. Isaac is injured. Possibly a start for Wilson in game week 14, so maybe he's someone that has upgraded from the watch list into an actual prospect. Next up is Nunez, and I've just watched the City game. He should be off here altogether. Played it like in a left wing position, very poor. Yellow card, whipped at 58 minutes, I think it was. Not a prospect for the future. Same with Stones, didn't play, wasn't in the squad as far as I believe. And City look unbelievably bad defensively. So even if there's an Akanji, a Diaz who just came back into it, if you want to take a risk on City improving at the back, go for it. But they could have lost 4-0 there today. Devaney, who started for Palace last week, didn't get the start this week. That's because Eze is back. So a couple of questions about Eze later on. 2 Arsenal boys. One of them could be upgraded to a potential pick for game week 14. Zinchenko, not so much. Came on left back. Played, I think, around 30 something minutes. But yeah, the main man at Kivoire is because Gabriel went off injured once again. So I'm going to assume the turnaround's too quick for Gabriel to start. I'm going to assume again it's going to be Calafiori, Kivoire, Saliba, and then Timber right back. So definitely a 1 week punt for this week. Now on to a very popular dilemma this week. Shade versus Kluivert. We have to talk about how they got on, and then we'll kind of assess them in comparison to other players. So both of them went off. Kluivert with 20 points, 3 goals. Shade with 23 points, 3 goals and an assist. Insane performance by both of them. Shade definitely went under the radar. Kluivert, yeah, you could have made an argument for picking him, but again, when we look at the stats and when we compare them to other players, it's not someone that you should feel hard done by that you didn't have. And will they be prospects going forward? We'll analyse that. If we look at their minutes, on average this season, Shade at 45 minutes. And I'm even surprised by that. If you look on the FPL website and you check his minutes per game, it doesn't look for pretty reading. Whereas Kluivert is solid enough. Starts most games around the 70th minute. So I'm surprised he's actually only at 60 minutes per game. So yeah, Kluivert is a bit of a kind of a nail player in the recent games, so maybe you could have made an argument. Whereas Shade was left field. We thought Wissa might actually go left and Igor might play up top, whereas we have Shade left wing and Wissa up top. That might change things going forward in terms of Igor Thiago's valuation. Now, let's look at the statistics. Shade with a 3.1 XGI this season, having scored 3 goals, 2 assists, most of them coming in that last game. Similar for Kluivert. Now he has a decent XG of 5.7, 5 goals, 2 assists. But again, 3 of those are penalties. The XG in a penalty is around 0.85. So he has racked up most of that XG in that last game, as well as the returns. Looking at the fixtures, and again, I'm looking at the fixtures in terms of the FDR added together, right? So over the next 6 games, the hardest possible games, you could have 30 out of 36, 5 rated FDR. That'll be 30 out of 30. Shade has a 22 out of 30, which is relatively tough. If you look at the fixtures, Shade's fixtures are tough. If you haven't Wemo, maybe a normal fancy, you're probably thinking about selling them. So, that plays into, is Shade an option going forward? And Kluivert's aren't the worst, 16 out of 30. So yeah, you could make an argument for picking him. The best thing about Kluivert is that he took them penalties and will probably continue to take those penalties. So if all else fails, Yeah, and they actually have some 3 good fixtures in a row in a couple of game weeks' time. If all else fails, maybe you get a penalty out of them. Now, let's finish off with the points per start, and Shadis is really high, 6 points per start, which tells you that if he does play, he will do well. It's just that consistency. Clivert's still not too bad, 4.5. Again, most of them coming from the last game week. So all of these stats are slightly skewed. If Clivert just banged 1 goal, would you be as hot on him? So my overall idea on these boys is don't get too crazy. Don't think that they're going to do this every day. We know, well, obviously, we know that that's not going to happen. And yeah, they could be worth a pickup, but there's a couple of questions at the end. Would I pick Shade, Clivert, or other players? I'm always sticking to the same plan. Keep it simple. Yeah, don't go chasing points all the time. Yeah, they can be, if you have an injured players, they'll probably be an upgrade on a good few players, but there's 1 or 2 questions about wavering out players that have been guaranteed starters who have been tipping along and have been getting decent results so far this season. I do think they're okay options, but I would not be going too hot on them. Now, hopefully I'm wrong. We see some great results, but yeah, great performance, but we're looking for the future, not the past. So I think the next player in the podcast tells you what I'm thinking. Buenanote, let's do a little deep dive into him. Another return this game week. He's just a really, really consistent player that has come under the radar, doing exceptionally well for Leicester. Now, note, Leicester have only failed to score in 1 game this season. That was at United, funny enough. So every time I see Leicester in a matchup, and I nearly expect them to score. And Buenanote has been at the heart of that when he's played. He has missed a game through suspension, through injury. So his points, right, per 90 have been very, very good when he plays. He's been steady enough in terms of his minutes, 72 per game, but that actually again is skewed because he was only being rotated in for a couple of those games. So again, I think that's slightly skewed as well. That could be slightly higher, just like Clivert's. His XGI is 4.5, a very healthy 4.5, decent, with 4 goals and 2 assists so far this season. Very, very good returns for a player who, again, missed a good bit of time and is now settled in that side. His fixtures aren't as good as Clivert's, 20 out of 30, but if we look at them on screen, they're not too bad. West Ham at home, Brighton at home, Newcastle away, Wolves at home. Then they have some very tough fixtures, Liverpool and City in game week 18 and 19. So realistically, we're looking at him for 4 games. The next 4, West Ham, Brighton, Newcastle, Wolves. They're okay fixtures. None of those teams are unbelievably solid. West Ham concede goals. Brighton aren't 100% solid. Newcastle are a good side, and Wolves just conceded 4, I think it was, wasn't it, to Bournemouth. So definitely goals to be got. If we look at his points per start, 4.18, so similar enough to Clivert. When he's on the pitch, he's really, really effective. He is the focal point for that Leicester side. And yeah, if I was picking again these 3, I would probably go Buenanote, just in terms of his, I suppose, all his stats, really. He's definitely nailed. I suppose one thing Clivert always has in his favour is those penalties, but I think going off everything else, going on off, I suppose, ability, how important he is to that side, I'd have to go Buenanote. 4 fixtures, not the worst. If you are stuck, if Buenanote is not there, Clivert's a decent option. I don't think I'd be going Shade out of these 3. I just think that I have to guarantee that they're going to start. And for Buenanote and Clivert, you can nearly guarantee that. Whereas for Shade, you cannot. Looking at a couple of good options for the upcoming week and weeks beyond. Enzo Fernandez is top of the list, and it's one that I'll always want to forget because 2 weeks ago, Lavia was supposed to be injured. I thought, if Lavia's injured, Enzo's such a good shout. He just played very, very well in Europe, and I thought, geez, he could be decent, like go under the radar, has the ability to score, and since then he's got 2 goals and an assist, and probably, a lot of people are looking at him. But what can you do? You can only move forward, as we said in the last one. We're looking forward with Chelsea. I can't see how Enzo doesn't continue to start. Caicedo went into right back today. Lavia in midfield with Enzo, and Enzo got that goal as well. So, only I suppose your natural rotation, resting players, obviously. But in terms of their best 11, Enzo's forced himself into that. Looking at the fixtures, Southampton, Spurs, Brentford, Everton, Fulham, Ipswich, they have just an insane run of fixtures right through Christmas and right to January. They're in really, really good form. Enzo can actually hit a free kick as well. So, yeah, Enzo's a kind of an easy pick. The other two boys are Palace boys, and they have a good fixture this week. Eze is back. Now, be very careful of Eze, and I suppose I'm going to repeat it again in the final part, but Eze is so injury prone, and he says that he's going to monitor his minutes and manage them. So he's not even guaranteed to start next week. He did only get 60 something minutes, but yeah, when he's on the pitch, always really, really dangerous. And then Sarr continues to start, continues to be dangerous. I expect him to get a return in that game. He's been coming so close and playing very, very well for Palace. So yeah, two Palace boys. If you want to throw a couple of defenders in there, maybe, but they don't have the greatest run of fixtures beyond that. So maybe you want to just look to get a short-term punt. Little update from last week's video as well. We had some Brighton boys that we're going to target. They still have really, really good fixtures on paper. Fulham, Leicester, West Ham in there. Some very, very good fixtures. Veltman didn't start. Hinchelwood, his injury has gone backwards. So Van Hecke, Rutter, João Pedro, the best picks. Probably could put Matt O'Reilly in there as well. Estupinan is a top pick. Obviously, we know he's probably taken. But those Brighton boys to target, again, when we look at the defenders, 2 away games, Fulham and Leicester over the next 2, both those teams are really, really good sides that can score goals. So maybe you're looking towards maybe a more attacking player like a Rutter or even a Matt O'Reilly to take a chance on if it's not a Stupinan, because they haven't been that solid defensively. So targeting one of these might leave you slightly disappointed like Van Hecke did to me this week, but definitely a great team to target over the Christmas period. And then our West Ham boys, they did it a week early for us. Emerson banged. I said I prefer Emerson to Wan-Bissaka, but they both banged. They've got over that tough Arsenal fixture into their lovely run of fixtures. So even if you look towards a Bone, I know he's not here, but towards trading for a Bone, stalwart in that team, and they have some good fixtures. You could see that they can score goals. So again, we're not concerned about if they win, lose, or draw. We're concerned about FPL returns. So Emerson, Kilman, hopefully you might see them keep a clean sheet or two. But those attacking returns are what we're looking for. Kudos is back this week, well rested. Paqueta continues to start. Antonio continues to start. Targeting them West Ham boys is just an easy decision in terms of fixtures and in terms of, I suppose, high upside probability. They could do anything. They could score 3 goals, or they could get smashed 5-2 like they did. So West Ham boys are definitely high on my list. And reassessing those United assets from last week, Dalot started left wing back, Shaw came on. So again, very hard to pinpoint who exactly is going to continue to start there. I'd be a bit hesitant. Garnacho continues not to start. Rashford bangs 2. Ahmed 2 assists. Xerxes 2 goals. So obviously Ahmad is top of the list there. Brilliant waiver if he's not already taken. Rashford proves me wrong. He is the man, or will be one of the men for Amarin by the looks of it. And then Xerxes bangs 2 goals. Now I have a little, Ahmed's good to go. We know that. Rashford's good to go. Boom, we've figured that information out. But Xerxes, I still think is going to be rotated. Unbelievable that he got 2 goals, apart from he was on my bench in one draft. But what I really think is that people might jump on him too soon. Very good player if you have him. Still look to get him in. He'll play a nice chunk of minutes for United. But what I wouldn't do is go trading a Watkins for him. I don't think that you have guaranteed starting United striker on your hands, but you have a good striker. You have someone that will play for a decent side, play good minutes, and get some goals here or there. But again, for a striker, we want to know that we can play them. I think Hoyland still has a very good chance of getting in there. So yeah, great that he got the goals, but if you are trading for him, just be wary. Be wary that he is not nailed, but could be in the future. Hopefully will be. And finally, on to our listener questions. First one up is an example of where we should rank or how we should know where to rank players. Would you waiver out Ahmed for Bailey, or Ahmed or Bailey for Shade or Clivert? Definitely not Ahmed. Definitely not Ahmed. And I still don't think Bailey either. I think there was another question about Bailey somewhere, but I do think Bailey will start the next game because Philogene played really poor when he came on, and I just see Bailey starting the next game. So maybe Clivert, maybe an Ahmed and a Clivert there, but just to know Bailey will start. Or well, I think he will. Good replacement for Morgan Gibbs White. We talked a lot about replacements for Morgan Gibbs White last week. Two of them are mentioned here: Jolinton, Paqueta, Bailey, or someone else. So I don't think too much has changed. I still like Paqueta, really good fixtures, nailed down. I do really like Buenanote as well. So if I had to pick, I'd probably go either Paqueta or Buenanote. And pick up Jota for Madueke. I like it. Yeah, I do like it. I know it's a bit of a risk because Madueke did get a rest and came on, probably start the next game, but I think that I'd probably make that move, especially if my team was set. If my team was very solid and no major rotation risks or injuries, I'd like to take a chance on Jota coming back into that side. I know he's a lot to do because Gakpo playing really well, Diaz playing really well, so it's not like he's just going to go in there and start straight away. But I think for the future, definitely a good pick. Drop Smodics for Buonanotte. Yeah, there's not a huge amount in them, but I do think Buenanote is the better pick. Smodic's still a decent one for the next couple of weeks. Is Eze a hold, or should I try and trade him? I think we talked about this 2 weeks ago, where hopefully Eze comes back, bangs, and then trade him. So I wouldn't trade him just now because his trading value is not that high. But hopefully he just goes off against Ipswich. Maybe that's the time to look for a trade then, because inevitably that hammer is going to go again. Shade, Clivert, or Buenanote answered. We know the answer. Buenanote for me, Clivert in second, Shade probably third, and that's only because of minutes. I think in terms of ceiling, we saw it. Shade take set pieces, take everything out of it. Shade has probably the highest ability, but if he's not guaranteed starter, I just can't go near him. Shade, Paqueta, Jolinton, Sabazlai, or Shar. A lot of players we talked about in this episode. And that's a great question because I do like Paqueta as a solid pick over the next while. You know he's going to play, he could possibly be on penalties, good fixtures, decent side. Shade, up and down, great return, but might get a benching. Jolinton, solid, but doesn't excite you a crazy amount. Sabazlai, too deep for me, but decent pick, okay pick. And then Sar, very good short term pick. So I think the person that ticks most box for me is Paqueta. And then finally, Isaac and Kanate keep or trade, sell, waiver, whatever. Isaac's a keep. He apparently was only an impact injury, so hopefully it won't be too long. And then Kanate, I think it was estimated like 5 or 6 weeks. 5 or 6 weeks is a lot of game time, especially over Christmas period. So maybe if there's a really good waiver on the waiver pile, could be worth it. I think if you can hold out, try to, but Christmas period is tough. You will need minimum 14 players, and that might be a keeper as well in rotation. So, you might have to bite the bullet early rather than wait and take some L's. Hopefully, we have answered your question. We have answered it correctly, and you get the W this week. We'll see you during the week very, very shortly for game week 15. A lot of waiver deadlines coming up, so stay tuned. Thank you so much, as always, for listening. FPL Draft Yo out. Boom.